Welcome to Title IX Basics for K-12 mandatory training for the Butler County School System. Title IX, the law. Title IX is a federal law that states, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Title IX is a federal law enforced by the Office for Civil Rights. It prohibits discrimination based on sex, and it was historically viewed as requiring gender equality in athletics, but has recently been expanded. In the upcoming slides, I will describe actions that can constitute a Title IX complaint. Sexual harassment is one instance that can constitute a Title IX complaint based on the information below. Conduct on the basis of sex that satisfies one or more of the following: an employee of the recipient conditioning the provision of aid, benefit, or service of the recipient on an individual's participation in unwelcome sexual conduct. Unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to the recipient's education program or activity. It may also include actions motivated by gender or sex, such as bullying, hazing, vandalism, arson, program equity decisions such as admission, athletics or club participation, hiring, firing, and promotion. Sexual assault. Sexual assault, an offense that meets the definition of rape, fondling, incest, or statutory rape as used in the FBI's crime reporting system. A sex offense is any sexual act directed against another person without the consent of the victim, including instances where the victim is incapable of giving consent. Instances that will constitute a Title IX complaint are listed here. Rape. The penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus with any body part or object, or oral penetration by a sex organ of another person without the consent of the victim. Fondling. The touching of the private body parts of another person for the purpose of sexual gratification without the consent of the victim, including instances where the victim is incapable of giving consent because of his or her age or because of his or her temporary or permanent mental incapacity. Incest. Sexual intercourse between persons who are related to each other within the degrees wherein marriage is prohibited by law. Statutory rape. Sexual intercourse with a person who is under the statutory age of consent. Dating violence. Violence is committed by a person who is or has been in a social relationship of romantic or intimate nature with the victim. The existence of such a relationship shall be based upon the reporting party's statement with consideration of the following factors: the length of the relationship, the type of relationship, the frequency of interaction between the person involved in the relationship. Dating violence includes, but is not limited to, sexual or physical abuse or the threat of such abuse. Domestic violence. Domestic violence is a felony misdemeanor crime of violence committed by a current or former spouse or intimate partner of the victim, by a person with whom the victim shares a child in common, by a person who is cohabitating with or has cohabitated with the victim as a spouse or intimate partner, by a person similarly situated to a spouse of the victim under the domestic or family violence laws of the jurisdiction in which the crime of the violence occurred, or by any other person against an adult or youth victim who is protected from that person's acts under the domestic or family violence laws of the jurisdiction in which the crime or violence occurred. Stalking. Engaging in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to 1. Fear for the person's safety or the safety of others, or 2. Suffer substantial emotional distress. Definitions. Course of conduct. 2 or more acts, including but not limited to acts in which the stalker directly, indirectly, or through third parties by an action, method, device, or means follows, monitors, observes, surveils, threatens, or communicates to or about a person, or interferes with a person's property. Substantial emotional distress. Significant mental suffering or anguish that may, but does not necessarily, require medical or other professional treatment or counseling. Reasonable person. Reasonable person under similar circumstances and with similar identities to the victim. Again, sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, and stalking all constitute instances for a Title IX complaint. Who does Title IX apply to? Title IX applies to faculty, staff, students, and conduct on and off campus. Instances of a complaint can include, but not limited to, student on student, staff on student, staff on staff. However, any complaint involving staff should be reported directly to the central office. Title IX complaints can be reported directly to your local school contact, who is your principal. McKenzie School, Mr. Miles Brown. Georgiana School, Ms. Deidre Benson. W.O. Palmer, Ms. Jackie Thornton. Greenville Elementary School, Ms. Belinda Cook. Greenville Middle School, Mr. Bryant Marlowe. And Greenville High School, Mr. Jamie Howard. Reports can also be made to the district's Title IX coordinator, Ms. Sania Powell, at 334-382-2665, extension 1220. Again, any complaints involving staff should be directly reported to the superintendent. Now we will discuss the Butler County School System's Title IX process. First, a Title IX complaint must be submitted to the local school contact, which is the principal at each respective school. Next, the local school contact will conduct a hearing with the complainant and advises he or she of their individual rights. An advisor is admissible at any point, and the advisor does not have to be trained. The advisor can be anyone from a parent to a friend to a family member, or whomever the complainant chooses. Next, if the student files a formal complaint, the local school contact must notify the respondent of the complaint and inform them of their individual rights. Again, an advisor is allowed at any point and does not have to be trained and can be any person the respondent chooses. Next, the local school contact will submit all of the information collected from the complainant and the respondent to the local school investigator, who must have been trained. The local school investigator has 10 days to investigate the complaint and report findings. The report will be given to both parties, the complainant and the respondent. They will each have 10 days to respond in writing and to submit any questions of their choosing. Next, the local school investigator will provide all information and documentation to the local school decision makers, which will more than likely be a panel, but everyone must have been trained. The decision makers will provide a written determination of both parties within 10 days. If either party disagrees with the determination, they have 5 days to appeal to the district's Title IX contact, who will then submit all documentation to the district appellate panel. The district appellate panel will make a written determination within 5 days. Once the determination is made, the matter is resolved in the school district. There is only one appeal granted to the parties. The Title IX process can take up to 45 days